Hello everybody and welcome to the United Stand. I'm Mark Goldbridge. This is your latest Manchester United news. It's also your preview for Manchester United's trip to Burnley on Saturday night, which is a massive game for Manchester United. Did you know that Burnley have already played 3 games at home this season and they're averaging over 3 goals conceded? They lost to Man City 3-0, they lost to Spurs by 5, and Villa also scored 3. So there's goals at Burnley and Man United need to bloody score some. We have to win on Saturday night. We'll also be talking about the latest with Jadon Sancho. A story has broken tonight that Man United are looking to sell him in January to the highest bidder, even if it's a low fee, to get him out of the club. We'll give you a bit of an insight on what's going on with Manchester United and Jadon Sancho, because it's not a one-sided story. Sancho wants out of Manchester United as well. So we'll talk about that and a few other bits as well. It's Thursday night. And can I just say as well, the call-in show was marvellous. I don't know whether you've seen it yet. Our first call-in show for a long time. Very professional, very polished. Well done to everybody who calls in. Obviously, we're going to do more of them. Make sure you watch it, because it was brilliant. I absolutely loved watching it. Very, 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 very good visually, audioily, brilliant, fantastic. It was fantastic. Just on Burnley as well, we've got a very good record at Turf Moor, despite my FIFA record that sort of has made Burnley into a bit of a myth. They're not actually that good. So let's get into the show. But before we get into that, and before I reveal what I think Ten Hag's team will be on Saturday with Amrabat, I'm convinced, starting the game. I think some of the players will still be missing. But it is a preview, so that means it's our TUS predictor time. Last week we had 2 prediction winners for the Man United Brighton game. Jay Reddig and Swedish Steve both shared the jackpot, winning £173 each, guessing 9 out of 11 predictions correctly. The TUS predictor, all you've got to do is scan the QR code or go through the link in the description to our TUS predictor app. There are 10 scenarios or 11 scenarios in relation to the game that you have to pick an answer for. Could be like, will United get 3 corners or more? Yes or no, things like that. This week we also did a one-off free TUS predictor, and we had 5 winners from that. Dolph, Dubs, Kev J6 1967, Matt 16594 and Super Spur. They all shared the £1,000, which is fantastic, all guessing 9 out of 11. This week's for the Burnley match, it's only £2.50 to enter, with a minimum prize pool of £1,000. So links in the chat or scan the QR code for that. You can also play the free one as well, where you can win up to £100. It's your opportunity to win real cash. So if you think you're good, if you think you're a match prediction expert, you play against United Stand viewers, by the way. It's not open to everybody else. It's a United Stand predictor game. Links in the description. Remember, you must be over 18 and always gamble responsibly. Terms and conditions apply. And let's fly into the show. Good luck in the predictor. A lot of you playing it, and good luck with it. Okay, let's get into the Manchester United game. Let me just reveal what I think Manchester United's lineup is going to be in this game. I can't remove it. This is incredible. I've got absolutely no idea why that has decided to... Oh, for fuck's sake. I tell you what. I sit here in despair at times. Oh, well, my lineup's there. Great. Fantastic. Okay. So, this is how I think Ten Hag will line up against Burnley. Remember I said before the Bayern Munich game that this was the start of the season for Manchester United, Burnley. I think anything we got from Bayern Munich would have been a bonus. I didn't expect anything. I suppose in a way we didn't get anything. A lot of people want to see a front 3 of Højlund, Rashford and Martial. You know what? Sometimes I really do feel very, very confident about saying this. You are a bunch of flip-flops. You really are a bunch of flip-flops. Martial came on and played well for 20 minutes. Dropped Pellistri, who we wanted for months to play on the right wing, and put Martial on the left and Rashford on the right. Even though we've been slagging Martial off for ages because he's always injury prone. He's played well for 20 minutes, dropped Pellistri and play a front 3 of Martial, Rashford and Højlund. Even though I've slagged Martial off for a year and I've called him an injury lazy mercenary bastard, still put him in the team because he played well for 20 minutes and dropped Pellistri, who I've wanted to play for weeks. Look, it's up to you. It's all about opinion. But I actually do like Martial, but I wouldn't change the front 3, and I don't think Ten Hag will. I think the beauty of Martial is that he made an impact off the bench. The reality of Martial is he's injury prone. I would stick with the same front 3. I don't see the point in starting Pellistri against Bayern Munich in a really difficult game where he put a shift in for 70 minutes and then saying you dropped. Like, is that his chance away from home against Bayern Munich? I mean, come on, you've got to give him a chance at least at home or at least against a lesser team. So I think that I think you've got to give Pellistri a start in this game. He put the shift in away from home against Bayern Munich. Now give him a chance against a lesser team. I would start Pellistri. But look, starting with the goalkeeper, absolutely no chance are we going to change the goalkeeper, and neither should we. Varane was very close to being back for the Bayern Munich game. I'm very glad we didn't play him in the Bayern Munich game. Why take the risk? You've got to play him in the Burnley game. I wouldn't be thinking about Carabao Cup against Crystal Palace. Leave that for Maguire and Evans. You put Varane into this game, it's a must-win game. So Varane, Martinez back together, working together, 100%. Dalot and Reguilon have to play. We have got no rotation options. I don't know what we're going to do in the Carabao Cup because we've got no rotation options at fullback at all. I can't even think of any young players you could play there. Casemiro, Bruno and Amrabat. And this is the most exciting thing for me. I mean, it's great that we could have Varane back in the team, but Amrabat in that team has to play. Now, the story from the training ground is that Amrabat is ridiculously close. Like, he is so ready to play in this game. My only reservation is Rasmus was ready to play against, was it Forest? And he didn't even put him on the bench because the laptop said give it a little bit longer. So logically, Amrabat should play. But as we know with Ten Hag, sometimes he follows the fitness and the laptop. So I think you've just got to play Amrabat. It's such an important game, and you don't need to play him against Crystal Palace in the Carabao Cup. So play him against Burnley. Give him a week off, play him the following week. I think we've got Brentford, haven't we, or something like that. So 100% play him in this game. We need, the one thing that Burnley will do is battle. I mean, if you look at that Burnley side, they only got their first point on Monday night at Forest. So they're going to battle. I mean, looking at that Burnley lineup, Muric, Vittino, Ekdal, O'Shea, Taylor, Ramsey, Brownhill, Redmond, Gudmundsson, Rodriguez, Larson. They're going to be honest. It's going to be an honest, hard-working performance from them. But like I say, Villa scored 3 against them. Man City scored 3 against them. And Spurs scored 5 against them. We've got to go there and score goals. And if we're going to go there and score goals, we've got to grab hold of the midfield. The Inquisition says, I just hope with Amrabat back from injury that McTominay won't come off the bench. In the past, Eriksen looked fresh when being subbed on. Wickster, thanks for being a member for 12 months. My cat enjoys listening to the United Stand. He's considering becoming a member, says Sade. Also, what's your prediction for the Burnley mark? We'll get to that, Jack. And whatever Erik Ten Hag told Rashi after the Brighton game kind of worked. He passed more and was less selfish. He needs to do more of that, says Sakin. And Slow Sports News says, Mark, the only thing I don't want to hear is it had to be bloody Burnley. We're moving in the right direction. Now we have stronger options, says Slow Sports News. Yeah, look, I don't want Scott McTominay on the bench, to be honest with you. I know people keep going on about the clip. I genuinely haven't watched it. Even when I've seen it on social media, I've moved past it. I don't need to see what people are moaning about Scott McTominay, because I've been moaning about him for ages. You know, he's been getting by on passion for about 4 years. And now that he's not trying, what has he got? So I don't rate McTominay. I don't think he's good enough. I never did. I don't want him anywhere near the team. I want Amrabat in. I want Mainu back in a couple of weeks. I want Mount back next week. We've got Eriksen. I don't want him anywhere near the team. I think his attitude in the last 2 games has been really poor. And if he's got no passion and commitment, he certainly hasn't got talent. So I wouldn't have him anywhere near the team. That's just my feeling on it. I mean, some people might say that's a bit harsh, but I don't enjoy watching players put in performances like that in a very privileged position. I would never, ever wear a Man United shirt for 5 minutes and not put a shift in. It pisses me right off. And I don't care whether people say you're being a bit harsh. I think it's a bit harsh that we have to watch people wear that shirt we'd bloody die to wear, you know, trot around like a fucking horse. Get into gallop mode, you know? I've got no sympathy for them. I think it's an absolute disgrace when you can't put a shift in for Manchester United. It's a privilege to wear that shirt, and some of them take it as a burden. So look, we need Amrabat into that midfield. Burnley will give a fight. Burnley will be physical. Burnley will be tenacious. Burnley will be energetic. We have to have Amrabat in that midfield, because if we don't, you have to play Eriksen, and you know Eriksen's only going to play it for an hour, and probably not play that well. It's really interesting, isn't it, how people say, you know, Ten Hag's got to be under pressure. You can't blame it on the Glazers. Ten Hag's under pressure. I'm telling you now, girlfriend, that Ten Hag is under pressure. And boyfriend, I'm telling you now, sister and brother, that Ten Hag is under pressure. Well, I'll tell you what, I'll tell you this. We have conceded so many goals this season because our midfield isn't good enough. We have conceded so many opportunities this season because Eriksen's not a number 8. If we play Burnley with Eriksen, Burnley have got a chance. So we need to find a solution. What that solution is has to be Amrabat. Really does. We've got to find a solution, and it has to be that. And then, as I said, front three for me: Rashford, Højlund, Pellistri. You've got Garnacho, you've got Martial, who can come off the bench. But you know, Scarlett says it's our defence. Scarlett, you need to start educating yourself in football. You've got absolutely no clue what you're talking about. It's not the defence, it's the midfield. The midfield gets overrun. The defence can't pick everybody up. You see it time and time and time again. Christian Eriksen is a major weak link in that midfield. Everybody knows it. It doesn't work. Eriksen's not even a number 8 anyway. We need to solve that. Otherwise, we're in big, big trouble. But look, it's interesting, isn't it? I was listening to the call-in show earlier. Some people are saying that Rashford should be dropped. Would I drop Rashford? No. No, I think Rashford is... I mean, look, again, even against Bayern, I don't think Rashford's attitude looked great, but he still got an assist and had a big part to play in the second goal. So that's the thing with Rashford for me. He can have a bad game and he can still get a goal or an assist. So I think that's too valuable in a game that you need to win. I don't think Burnley away is the game to send a message to Marcus Rashford. And I certainly don't think Ten Hag wants to. I think the fans do. I think some of the fans are pissed off with Rashford. I mean, that's very obvious. I think a lot of fans would drop Rashford, but there's no hint of that from Ten Hag. I mean, to be honest with you, this is something that probably is damaging Ten Hag, because the fans look at it and they see last night Højlund and Pellistri coming off and Rashford stays on again. We saw this all last season as well. So many times Rashford probably should get taken off and he stays on. And he is a huge Erik Ten Hag favourite. He's never going to drop him. I don't think he's ever going to sub him. It is what it is. You know, whether it's a weakness of Ten Hag's or whether it's a strength, he has got no intention of dropping Rashford. But it's interesting that people are actually starting to discuss what I was on about last week. I said the issue with Rashford is Ten Hag is treating him like Ronaldo. And people are waking up to it now. People are actually waking up to it and saying, Rashford's not tracking back and working hard because he's been told not to. I saw a really good thread on Twitter, and again, my ignorance in not shouting the person out. But if Maguire was playing, you say it's the defence's fault, says Rory. No, I wouldn't. No, I wouldn't, Rory. I mean, I don't know what world you live in, Rory. I live in a real world, and I can't be bothered with agenda. I really can't. I just want Manchester United to win. If I had an agenda, I'd start moaning yesterday and say that we lost the game because of Scott McTominay. We lost the game because of Eriksen. You know, I actually took a lot of positives out of that game yesterday, and I could have been very negative. So, Rory, wrongy, shove it up your arse, you little troublemaking shit. Hi, Mark. You used to rank top 10 players every week. You need to start it again, says Binny. And Mark, Erik Ten Hag needs to make early subs in the second half. Reasonable ones, of course. If anyone stops moaning, sulking, not tracking back, if there's no response after half-time, roasting by Ten Hag, says PK. Good man, McTerminator. Have no doubts he will be back, says Rory. Oh, I think we all know why Rory's saying that, isn't he? He's in love with Scott McTominay. He's in the Scooby-Doo fan club. Evening, Mark. Can you see happy birthday to my mate Finn, who turned 16? He loves your videos. I can say happy birthday, Kareem, to Finn. I'm not bloody singing it for anyone. I wouldn't sing it for my wife. What is that? I hate the song. I just hate happy birthday. It just takes me back to being a kid and sing. I fucking hate that song. What is the name of the app can I use to have my own fantasy Premier League team on my phone? Yeah, Eddie, this ain't bloody Ask Jeeves. This is the United Stand preview. Do I look like I've got bloody Ask Me Anything on my forehead? No. Anyway, look, let me get back to Rashford. I saw something on Twitter today and I thought, this is genius. Basically, somebody said, I completely agree that Marcus Rashford is not putting a shift in. You know, his attitude is a little bit off in games. And, you know, he's not working as hard without the ball as he tries with the ball. But the person then went on to say that's either deliberate and he needs to be dropped because it's a bad attitude, or it's coming from the manager and it's tactical. And they also went on to say, now, in my mind, it's not deliberate because in the second half, he's on the same side of the pitch that Ten Hag is. You're telling me that Ten Hag wouldn't be in his ear saying work harder. I mean, look, I managed the sidemen at Charlton last year in front of 30,000, and last couple of weeks ago it was 60,000. I literally couldn't get a message to the winger on the other side. It's impossible with 60,000 people. It's too noisy. But when they're on your side of the pitch, it's a piece of piss. You know, I was slagging off the linesman and he was like 20 metres away on my side. So you can do it. So I think it's a really intelligent piece of analysis to say, my hunch is Ten Hag is on board with Rashford not tracking back and working hard. And I said this on Monday or Sunday. I said that the Rashford issue is that I think, and I might be completely wrong, I think Erik Ten Hag is treating Rashford like Ronaldo was treated 15 years ago by Sir Alex. You're my star player. Come alive when the ball's near you on the attack, but you don't need to work hard tracking back. Conserve your energy. Why Marcus Rashford needs to conserve energy would be a worry. Why does he need to conserve energy? Why is he not as fit as Grealish or Salah or any other top player that actually tracks back and does the attacking as well? But I'm starting to lean more and more towards this. I think it's a tactical thing, in which case getting on Rashford's back is a bit unfair. Because if Rashford was genuinely being lazy and not working for the team, why has Ten Hag not subbed him off? Why has he not dropped him? Why does he keep him on every single minute and takes off hard-working players like Højlund and Pellistri? I actually genuinely think he is using him purposely. Conserve your energy so you can explode when we get the ball. Obviously, that's to the detriment of the team because, you know, if you want to press, you need to do it as a team. And if I'm the opposition, I mean, I've probably just given Vincent Kompany, you know, a very, very easy pass to go down the Rashford side, but I think everybody's figured it out anyway. How can you press as a team if Rashford's being told to conserve energy when we're on the defence? So, and also, as well, as I've said before, why are we doing this in 2023? Pep doesn't do it. Do you think Pep says to Bernardo Silva, don't bother tracking back, save your energy for when we're on the attack? And they probably could do it. Does Liverpool's Jurgen Klopp do it with Salah? Don't worry, Salah, you're probably the best player in the league. Don't bother tracking back. He subs Salah off after 70 minutes if he's not putting a shift in. So, look, you can all get on Rashford's back. I wouldn't drop him. And I actually think there is a theory to be believed that this is coming from Ten Hag, telling him to preserve his energy. I think the more sinister thing is that because Rashford can't do it. He literally cannot put the effort in to track back, which would be surprising when you think back for those people who are old enough. I remember Wayne Rooney and Ryan Giggs. When the ball was on the attack, they came alive. And when we lost the ball, they almost became more alive and determined to win it back. So I don't know. I don't know what's going on there. There is an issue with Rashford. It's visible. You can see when he hasn't got the ball, he's not as up for it as when he's got the ball. But, you know, maybe it's tactical. Ten Hag has got to sub Rashford more with Martial, says PJ. Rashford is an important player for us, has to play and fix his attitude only. It's high time these players step up. Rasmus, my boy, to score, says Kenny. And hi, Mark, I've just become a dad for the first time, so let's have a win for the youngest United supporter, says Jack. Congratulations to Jack and presumably your missus. Although in this day, you know, you could actually be gay in an all-sex marriage and still have a child. So, you know, that's diversity and that's the way the world is today, which is fantastic. So, sorry, Jack, for actually being presumptuous, but congratulations on being a father. Sakin says that may have been true 15 years ago. Tracking back is one thing, Mark, but he doesn't pass or create chances and he's selfish. That's the problem. But, you know, what if the manager's telling him to do that? What if the manager is telling him to do that? Anyway, I'm definitely going to get clipped for that last bit, aren't I? But look, you know, you can't be presumptuous in this world. As I said, you know, Marcus Rashford might be being told to conserve his energy and he doesn't need to track back. I'd be surprised, but it could be true. Welcome to hell. First, we need to taste the pain of losing. Soon will be the bliss of winning. No more individual point outs. It's a team effort, says Slow Sports News. I'm really excited about this this game on Saturday. I don't like Saturday night 8 o'clock kickoffs, but that's what time it's going to kick off. And we need to kick off. We need to win that game. I'm encouraged by the fact that Burnley have conceded a lot of goals at home. As I said, Villa 3, Spurs 5, Man City 3, all at Turf Moor. They're averaging 3.3 goals conceded a game. We need to go there and score some goals, and we need to keep a clean sheet, get 3 points. I really think it can be a turning point for Manchester United. I'm going to go with a prediction of 3-1 to Manchester United. Left flank is the most dangerous side, says Jorge. And Mitoma would be really nice as competition for Rashford, says Ramon. Well, before I move on to the Sancho story, I do just want to say that Glenny Boy says, instead of wingers cutting in and shooting, how about wingers that score at the back post from crosses from the opposite side? I miss old school wingers, says Glenny. One of the problems with not subbing Rashford when he's not playing well is that you've got Garnacho, you've got Martial. They're players that you want to bring in with half an hour, 20 minutes to go. Quite rightly, any manager is going to look at his bench and go, I want to get them on the game. I want to get them. Don't want to put him on the game. I want to get them in the game. Well, if you're not going to take Rashford off, even if he's playing badly, that means you can only take off Højlund or the other winger. Now, if they're playing well, you've got to take off 2 players that are playing well to bring on your 2 subs that you want to bring on. And Rashford might not be playing well. Look, I absolutely am behind this guy, Erik ten Hag. I absolutely am. But in any walk of life, you will find some people have a weakness. Some people think I'm perfect. I certainly am not. And nobody is perfect. And if I have a problem with Ten Hag, I think that his Rashford obsession is not conducive sometimes to the team. Now, if Rashford's playing brilliant, you don't want to take your best player off. Does Pep Guardiola want to take Haaland off? Never. Does the PSG want to take Mbappe off? Never. So, of course, we never should really want to take Rashford off. But unfortunately, sometimes after 70 minutes, he's having a bad game and he should be brought off. And it doesn't happen. But the problem with that is you've still got players that need to come on. And because Rashford can't be brought off, you then have to take off, like last night, the Pelistris and the Højlunds, who, for me, had better games but have to come off. So I'd like to see... Look, I'd like to see Ten Hag be a little bit more like Klopp. Klopp's got no problem with subbing Salah in the 70th minute. I've seen Salah throwing his boots on the floor, as I said last night. Do you think that Ten Hag will be running the diamond formation with Casemiro, Amrabat, Mount and Bruno, says Sek? I don't like the diamond formation. Whether that's the long-term vision will be interesting. You raise a great point. There's absolutely no way Mason Mount's not going to play for Manchester United. There's no way that Casemiro's not going to play. There's no way that Amrabat's not going to play. And there's no way that Bruno's not going to play. So what we might see is Mount or Bruno on the wing, or we might see a return to the diamond, which, look, you can't just write it off because it didn't work against Brighton, but it really didn't work against Brighton. So I wouldn't like to see... I think we're a better... Look, some people were like, oh, Bayern were toying with Man United last night. Anytime they wanted to score, they could score. I think that's bollocks. I really think that's bollocks. If Bayern were toying with Man United, why did it take a goalkeeping error after half an hour to put them in front? People talk out their arse. I heard Simon Jordan on about it. Other so-called experts on about it. Bayern were toying with Man United last night. They never even got out of second gear. People saying that United can build on that performance. It's only because Bayern kept them at arm's length. I'm like, God, how many games of football have you watched? And why are you a goldfish that completely forget the game? 100% Bayern Munich were not toying with us last night. If they were toying with us, why toy with us? They actually, for half an hour, couldn't get near us until Onana made a mistake. And then the game went a little bit all over the place. But, Bayern were 100% trying to beat us. We were quite accomplished for half an hour, and we were accomplished with that formation there. Sherath says, Mitoma competition for Rashford. Mitoma is better than Rashford. In our current system, Rashford looks good, but he's not a complete player. Standards, says Sherath. Could he been told to stop due to muscle injury, says James. I don't know who's been told to stop James with a muscle injury. I mean, that could mean all sorts of stuff. Anyway, moving the conversation on a little bit, you may have seen a story earlier on coming out about Jadon Sancho and basically saying that Sancho is available in January. Man United are just desperate to get away. Excuse me. Whoa, I don't know why I'm yawning. Manchester United are just desperate to get rid of him, and they will take a low offer for Jadon Sancho. Now, there was an update I was going to bring into this show anyway, but it's interesting that update is in relation to Sancho. Look, first and foremost, we really desperately need an ownership model like Newcastle or Manchester City, because there is so much crap to flush down the toilet at that football club that we're never going to be able to do it under this regime of debt. It's boring, but it's factual that if Ten Hag says, look, just get rid of Harry Maguire and Jadon Sancho, I don't want them here, just get rid of them, take the hit financially, the answer will be straight away no. And he will say, what do you mean no? I don't want them here. They don't want to be here. They've got no future here. It's just toxic for everybody, for the player, for me, for the fans. It's toxic. Get rid of them. And the sad thing is, the Glazers will come back through Richard Arnold and John Murtaugh and say, you can't get rid of them. They're on 200 and 300 grand a week. We paid 80 million and 75 million pounds for them. We are a club in debt. We can't afford for assets like that to just go for nothing. It will cripple us. We can't do it. Financially, business-wise, we just cannot do that. These players are assets. They're listed against the debt. We can't just write them off. We just can't do it. People don't realise that. They don't realise that we can't do it. You know, a lot of these signings were made with the bank's authority around how the debt gets repurposed and what's listed against the debt. So United have to recover money from these players, and that's where it becomes problematic, because Harry Maguire's value is dropping by the day because he doesn't play. Scott McTominay's value is, declining by the day because he doesn't play, and Jadon Sancho's value is declining by the day because he's not even in the matchday squad. So we're in a big problem here, and it's all right people saying Man United will sell Jadon Sancho in January for next to nothing, but I don't agree with that. I don't think under the current regime, I don't think we can do that. This is why Qatar winning the club in the summer would have been great, because they would write it off, because there'd be no debt anymore. But under our current regime, we just can't do that. So what happens with Sancho, for me, is interesting, but you have got stories coming from around the club that they want to get rid of him. More importantly, my opinion with Jadon Sancho is that he doesn't want to be here. I genuinely think that you look at the way that Jadon Sancho has acted since the Arsenal game. He left that tweet up for a week. Last night, I don't think it's a big thing, but he's playing on his computer game with his, username public for everybody to know about on the night of a Man United game when he's fully fit. He's just not playing because of attitude. I don't think this is a player that really gives a shit about winning his place back at Man United. I don't think he holds any personal issue with United players, United fans, or Manchester United. I think he'd like to play for us, but I think the relationship has broken down with the manager, and he's got no intention of playing for him. So it's all right to say United are going to kick Jadon Sancho out and they don't want him. I genuinely think it's a two-way street. I don't think that Jadon Sancho has got any intention for playing for us again. I think it's a stalemate, and I don't think it's going to get resolved. Don't you think if we play Rashford off the right, he'll more likely pass because he won't be able to cut inside? I think Rashford off the right is better, but he doesn't like it. He doesn't like it at all. Sancho wants to be at home playing computer games, as truth hurts. And Southgate and Sancho. Okay. No. Look. I was very excited when we signed Jadon Sancho. I remember the first summer when we didn't get him. I remember the second summer when we did get him. And I think like a lot of people, really thought he was going to be a player that revolutionised the way we attack. The positives of Sancho at Dortmund, and I'm not going to say the positives of Sancho because that's a generalisation that's not been evidenced in his time in the Premier League. So I'm not going to say that Sancho is this player because he's had 2 years to prove this in the Premier League and he hasn't proved it at all. But at Dortmund, what was exciting about him was that he was an English player playing in Germany. So you automatically think, well, he's obviously going to work well in the Premier League because he's English and he's, that's his upbringing. In the Bundesliga, he was a player that could play on the break. He was a player that could play against the low block. He was what I call a between the lines player, transitional player, a patient player. If you look at someone like Rashford and Antony to a certain extent, they're very flair players. They like to play quick. They like to get a shot off. Whereas I think Sancho's a technical player. You know, you can give him the ball in tight spaces, little intricate 1-2s, keep the possession. And I was like, this is the sort of player that Man United need. And, you know, a technical winger that's not really thinking about scoring goals. He's thinking about creating goals. And I think United were crying out for that on the right wing. As we heard from Ollie yesterday, we spent 2 years chasing Sancho to play on the right wing. What do you think about him now? Well, the problem is he wants to play on the left wing. You know, it's like it was just a really bad deal all round, and we have to acknowledge that it was a bad deal for Sancho as well. So, look, I don't, you know, it makes me laugh when you assess a situation and people start going, oh, you just hate Sancho. I mean, it's nonsense. I've never said I dislike Sancho. In fact, he's the sort of player that I like. He's just, you know, he's a bit like Donny van... In fact, I put Sancho in the same category as Donny van de Beek. Players that I really liked, that I thought were going to be very good, you know, were actual fake players that play the game the way I want to play, and they've let themselves down. For whatever reason, they've let themselves down. Only they are in control of their destiny. When we signed both player, I expected Donny van de Beek and Sancho to be a success. That's my job done. As a fan of the football club, thumbs up to both signings. I expect you to be a success. It's not up to me what happens afterwards. Both of them have failed. I think their paths are different, but ultimately they've failed. They won't be the first footballers to fail at Man United. Veron failed at Man United. I thought he was going to be a revelation. It's nothing personal. They failed. And they need to both get out of Manchester United. What happens next with Sancho is anybody's guess. There still could be because of money, there could still be a resolution here. But it will be because of money. I think if Jadon Sancho was a free agent, he'd be gone. I think if Jadon Sancho had come from the youth system, he'd be gone in January. I think if Jadon Sancho was out of contract next summer, he'd be gone in January. I think this is only about money. He's on 300 grand a week. He cost 75 million pounds 2 years ago. That will be the issue that has to be resolved. And it's an issue for Jadon Sancho as much as it is for Ten Hag. I'm sure Ten Hag wants him to go. I'm sure Sancho wants to go. But how do you get out? And as funny, as weird as it sounds, Jadon Sancho could be trapped himself. Because it's not easy to get out. So realistically, maybe there still could be a grand apology and, you know, turnaround. But it's a little bit like a manager. You know, I always say this about managers. When a manager starts to fail, they very rarely turn it round. And when I say fail, I'm not talking about what Ten Hag's done here. You know, you look at what Mourinho and Ollie and Van Gaal did. It was a sustained period of bad results. You know, we're talking 2 or 3 months. With Ten Hag, it's been 4 or 5 weeks. So Ten Hag's not in that position. But when that manager's had a bad 3 or 4 months, they might get a couple of results, but, you know, as soon as the fans start going, as soon as over 50% of the fans start going, Ollie out, it's never going to get turned around. And I think with Sancho, it's a bit like that. You know, we've had a few situations now where I think people have just sort of made their mind up. And I think he's made his mind up as well. But you never know. Football's funny. What 2 players do you think have the best click, says Slow Sports News, at Man United? I'll come back to that one. Sancho is actually more of an Erik Ten Hag style winger than Rashford. Personally gutted, he seems to have ruined his United pathway. 3-0 win against Burnley, says James. And good luck against the Clarets. Deceptively tough. Make you work for everything. Hard early schedule belies their talent, says Jack. And Mark, do you think Martial is a good player? By the way, I sincerely apologise for annoying you with too many questions. Love from the USA, says Eddie. I don't remember you asking another question, Eddie, so you're very, very welcome. So we had 2 questions there. Let's just wrap up on Sancho and then we can come on to Martial, because I do want to talk about Martial. Great point about Jadon Sancho being an Erik Ten Hag type of player. But, and I'm gonna shock you with my pajamas here. Look at these. Look at these. You can tell it's turning into autumn. I didn't even know I had these. Really comfy. Really comfy. Bit of a stretch. I read that Sancho was promised the number 7 before Ronaldo came back. Do you think he expected to get it this time round? So has the hump? Has Mount got it? Says Glennie. Look, that's a good point as well. A lot of people quite rightly say technically, if you look at Ajax, Jadon Sancho would suit the way that Ten Hag wants to play. And there's a mention there of the number 7 shirts that might be an issue. I'd answer both those points in 2 separate parts, if I may, and I will. What right has Jadon Sancho got to have the number 7 shirt? Absolutely none. Has he deserved it? Has he worked for it? Has he been consistent enough to get it? None. That reminds me of what Ollie was saying and what we've been saying for years. Some players, and Ollie described it as a disease to football, and I agree. Some players have family members and agents and people around them who put ideas in their head that don't belong to be there and tell them they're something that they're not. Now, could Jadon Sancho have people around him doing that? I would say he probably does, looking at some of the tweets he's put out. But does he have somebody around him telling him he should have the number 7 shirt? I mean, that would be incredible. Absolutely incredible. So I don't know about that. Mark, would you swap the Glazers for Bowley as owners, says Visha? Of course I bloody would. I'd rather have somebody that's crap at spending money but wants to keep spending money than somebody that puts you into debt and doesn't want to spend money. On the Ten Hag should be getting more out of Sancho because he's more his type of player. Well, what you've got to remember there is the minute, all last season I said this, and remember this time last season was when Sancho went away for 3 months. But even at the start of the season, I said, I'm worried about Jadon Sancho. You got Marcus Rashford, who Ten Hag was gloating about when he did his interview for the job. So you knew he was going to work with Rashford off the left. He spent 85 million euros on Anthony. And Bruno was always going to play at number 10. So from before we'd even kicked a ball under Ten Hag, I was like, I can't see where Sancho starts. And that's a problem. Because when you've spent £75 million and given somebody 300 grand a week, they cannot be a bench player. If Jadon Sancho's come through the youth setup, he can be a bench player. But when you've spent that amount of money on him, he can't be a bench player. And I think this is where, for me, I'd question the director of football again. Because if I'm the director of football last summer, not this summer, last summer, and Ten Hag says to me, I want to spend £85 million on Anthony, then I would have said to him, well, hold on a minute. We spent £75 million on Jadon Sancho a year ago. You've got Marcus Rashford who's going to play off the left, and you want us to spend £85 million on another winger. Like, Eric, there needs to be some, we can't do that because you can't have one of those players on the bench. It's ridiculous and it won't work, and it hasn't worked. So I would look at the director of football for that, because the bottom line is Ten Hag is right to buy Anthony and he is right to play Rashford because that's what he wants to do. But he's got no responsibility to Jadon Sancho at all. And that's why the director of football failed, because Ten Hag would say, sell Jadon Sancho. I didn't buy him. You bought him for a manager that you sacked. I didn't give him 300 grand a week. You did, to get him for a manager that you sacked. He is not part of my plans. And if we keep him, he's going to be a backup player unless we get injuries. And that's the thing to consider with Jadon Sancho. And it's always been the issue under Erik Ten Hag. He didn't buy him. He doesn't owe him anything. He inherited him. He doesn't have to pick him. He doesn't have to like the style of play. He doesn't have to do it. And even in Sancho's tweets, where he speaks about favouritism, so what? If you want to be really harsh, so what? So what if I prefer Rashford and Anthony to you? I don't want you. I want Anthony and Rashford. They're my players. They're players I want in my team. They are my favourites. You're right. Doesn't really matter how hard you work. I'll always go to Anthony and Rashford because they're the wingers I want. This ain't, Fairchester United. It's Manchester United. And I'm trying to win with the players that I think will win. And if I don't win, I'll get the sack. And that's how it works as a manager. So I don't think people think about it enough about Jadon Sancho. He wasn't bought by Ten Hag. He doesn't owe him a place in his team. And he may well just be, you'll never have a place in my team. So really, for me, it comes down to the director of football, because when they spent 85 million on Anthony, did they not see this was going to happen? When they didn't get rid of Ronaldo last summer, did they not see that the Piers Morgan thing was going to happen? And I think it just comes down to that. Trap says hypocrite. You know what? If there's one thing that really, really makes me laugh is when someone says hypocrite and then doesn't tell you why you're a hypocrite. Where am I supposed to go? Where am I supposed to go? Like, I don't know what I'm supposed to be a hypocrite about. But I guarantee you I'm not a hypocrite about Jadon Sancho, because I said it all last season. I said, where does Jadon Sancho start for Man United? And can he be a bench player? To which the answer is no, absolutely not. SD said, so his tweet was right. No. Mate, no. You know, if I presume most of you work. Maybe you don't. But if you work, right, you know what Jadon Sancho did to Ten Hag? This is what the equivalent of it is. I used to work in an office in Dublin in the early noughties, right? And office environment, some of you might work in it, right? What Jadon Sancho did with that tweet to Ten Hag would be the equivalent of me going into work in that office and sending an email, a global email to everyone in the business, telling them that my boss isn't very good at his job and is a liar. Do you think I'm going to get away with it? The tweet wasn't right. There might have been aspects of it that you can sympathise with, but the tweet was never right. Nobody can justify that. And anybody who does is just completely lost on an anti-Ten Hag agenda, because it's not right. Would it be right if Mo Salah did it to Klopp? A tweet. And that's the way to look at it. Would it be right if Erling Haaland did it about Pep? Would it be right if Odegaard did it about Arteta? It's not right to do that. You shouldn't do that. And he got it wrong. Only player I'm excited to see play for United is Rasmus. I love it. Rasmus. I don't know where that came from. I think I started it, but it's only me who does it. I agree, Aisha. I've seen people saying let's offer Reguilon a full-time contract. He's had a great start. Insane. How about we win a few games first and he plays well, says Nick. Look, I think Reguilon was second in your player ratings last night for man of the match behind Casemiro. But look, I said that Reguilon reminds me of my auntie's house. You pull up outside, the front garden looks beautiful, the front of the house is rendered, and it looks great. But when you look out the back window, it's overgrown, and I know it's full of shit because there's dogs out there. It's disgusting. And that's what Reguilon reminds me of. I think going forward, really good, and I thought this at Spurs. Energy, good. Effort level is good. Defensively, he is a liability. And I spoke to some Spurs fans over the international break who said, why is Reguilon why are you getting rid of Reguilon? I said, I remember when you got Reguilon and we wanted Reguilon and he looked like he was going to be a good player. And every one of those two Spurs fans said to me, going forward, he's good, but defensively, he's a liability. And I think we've seen that already. But it's too early to be giving Reguilon a contract. Now, is Reguilon better than Malacia? Maybe. Maybe he is. And in which case, maybe he could be a backup. But what we shouldn't lose sight of is that against Brighton and against Bayern, he did get done a few times. So if you want to ignore the fact that defensively he's a bit of a liability, that's up to you. But he did play well last night, and he did play well against Brighton. But defensively, there is an issue there. You can be awake to it, or you can ignore it. But there is an issue there, and it's a historic issue. It was a problem at Spurs as well. I liked his performance last night. I think he was one of the players that really did put a shift in. But do I think he's... Look, let's be honest, Luke Shaw is 10 times better than him. But Luke Shaw's not fit, and I'm very grateful to have Reguilon because we haven't got anybody else. Sorry for the off-topic comment, but just wanted to say that I'm loving all the new content and formats on the United Stand. Congratulations. I think Andrew's talking about the call-in show. I tell you what, you've got to go and watch it. If you missed it because you were at work or school or lazy, then make sure that you watch the call-in show that went out at 4 o'clock today. Brand new concept. Absolutely loved it. I agree. I loved the Countdown to Kickoff show as well. The fan forum that we had last year is fantastic. Yeah, really, really good. And the more we can get involved with you great people, the better. So, yeah, loving it. I haven't forgotten about Martial. I'm really loving the show tonight, actually. I started it and I was like, it's a preview. Where will we go? But as per usual, you just always produce great conversation points. So legends for everybody who's got involved in the chat or done a super chat, because it's really driven the show away from Sancho and Rashford and onto other areas. And I want to talk about Martial. I did a little bit of a joke at the start for those who weren't here at the start. There's a few people in the chat, because obviously I've gone Rashford, Højlund, Pellistri, and I think Pellistri totally deserves to start the game. I think it's disgusting that people have been moaning about Pellistri starting, and now they want him to be dropped. Like, he put the hard yards in last night in a hard game. He deserves to start against Burnley, where it'll be easier. I think Pellistri has to start this game. But people were saying Martial, Højlund, and Rashford, and I sort of did a silly voice, and I went, start Martial, start Martial. I know I've been slagging him off for a year and he's an injury-prone, lazy bastard. And I wanted Pellistri, but Martial played well for 20 minutes, so let's pick him. Flip-flop, yeah? But you know what I think about Anthony Martial. I like Anthony Martial. I've always liked him as a player. I've had his back. I like Martial. I think he's a good player. I hate it when people call him lazy or moody or anything like that. But the problem with Martial is I don't trust him. And not in the way that if we're out for a drink and I left my bag of crisps there open and I think come back and he's eaten them. Not in that way. I just don't trust his fitness. I don't trust Martial's fitness. So Jenks says your work rate is phenomenal, Mark. It inspires me. Thanks, pal. I don't trust Martial's fitness. So I can't trust putting him into the first team. I just can't. I feel like it's a waste of what's the word? A waste of optimism, maybe. A wasted project. That's better. I just feel it's a wasted project to put Martial in the starting lineup. Look, if he can stay fit for another 3 months, maybe we can do that. But he's been fit for about 3 weeks, and you know it's like a car, isn't it? When you're driving down the road and it goes bing, 30 miles left before you need some petrol. If you've got a modern car, you can even hit your screen and it will tell you where the nearest petrol station is. And you know you're going to run out of petrol, don't you? And I feel with Martial, the light's just pinged again. He's about to run out of petrol and get injured. So I like Martial. If Martial is fit and can play week in, week out, he's an asset. But I just don't trust him at the moment, and I wouldn't bother going down any project of having Martial in the starting 11 at the moment. It's just not worth doing it. And that's not because I think he's a bad player, it's because of injury. Imagine if Ten Hag on Saturday goes, right, I'm going to put Rashford on the right, Højlund up front, and Martial off the left, and that's going to be my new front three, yeah? It works against Burnley, we win 4-1. It works next week against Brentford or Crystal Palace. And then the following week when we play Brentford, he's injured in training. And then you've had 2 games where it's worked really well, and you're back to square one again because Martial's got injured. That's my point. I can't be bothered to go down the Martial project that I know will end with an injury. I'd rather he was just on the bench, cameoing for the last half an hour for a few weeks and see if he stays fit. But I don't think he will. I think there's an injury coming. Where do you think United will end up this season, says Rory? I think that we're going to end up fighting for 4th or 5th. 5th could get Champions League football. I don't think it's going to be easy based on the start to the season, but I certainly don't think we're out of it. I think Arsenal and Man City and Liverpool will move away from everybody else. And I think we'll be in 4th place. And potentially we could win a trophy. I'm hoping that from Saturday, our bad run of form is behind us and we start to, go on a bit of a run like we did last season. But I suspect the injuries are not over. I think this is a sign of things to come. Footballers are playing too many games. I think United are in trouble because of how much football they played last season. And I think we will pick up more injuries. So I think injuries are going to be our biggest problem this season. Mark, you're a hard-working, stubborn bugger, that's for sure, says Sis. And Varun, thank you. Welcome to Members Club. Appreciate that. Do you think there's any chance that Maguire will start, says Eddie? I'd be stunned if Maguire started. Why would we bother to do that? I don't think there's any need to do that, to be honest with you. Albert says, I think the next injury will be Casemiro. Well, don't say that, because I was just thinking there's certain players in that team that you just can't afford to lose. I don't think you can afford to lose Rashford. You can't afford to lose Casemiro. Bruno's another one. Højlund, we can't afford to lose. Yeah, we can't really afford to lose Martinez or Varane again, really. But you know it will happen because it's just the way it is, isn't it? But look, I think we're going to beat Burnley. I think we have to beat Burnley. And as I predicted before the Bayern game, I think the season starts on Saturday night, and it's got to be the start of 4 wins in the league. Burnley, Palace, Brentford, Sheffield United. We need to win all 4 games and get ourselves back involved. And I believe we can do. I think the players are expecting it. I think the fans are expecting it. Mia says, serious question, don't laugh. Should Casemiro play as a forward? He has a knack for score technical goals when needed. Why waste that talent? I tell you what, Mia. Casemiro's goal return at Manchester United must be bloody good compared to most holding midfielders in the Premier League. Everyone likes to bash Casemiro in the press in this country, but his goal return is very, very good. Anyway, look, thanks everyone for watching. Make sure you smash a like on the video. Really appreciate it. We're back in the morning at 10 o'clock. We've got Erik ten Hag's press conference tomorrow. It'll be very interesting to see who's back, etc. But hopefully Amrabat will be back. The sounds are good. And as I said, don't forget to check the call-in on the homepage. Brand new show. Very different type of show, but we loved making it, and it's well worth giving it a listen. Loads of you calling in and having your say. Some of them were fantastic, and obviously we'll be back doing those next week as well. So check it out. EAFC, my FIFA career mode, my EAFC career mode, I've got to get used to saying that, starts tomorrow on the Mark Goldbridge YouTube channel. Looking forward to that. A Goldbridge ball with Man United. Speak to you all in a bit. Thanks for watching.